What if, hear me out, what if George Conway is just a distraction? J Pork's podcast. Exclusively on East Coast Radio.
Mile journey begins with one step. Progressives took that step on November 6th. The journey's not over, but we took a step in the right direction.
If you don't know what Staten Island is, it's like New York's abortion that lived.
Did you see New York 11 elected a Democrat? New York 11 is Staten Island, the most Trumpian place in New York City. Elected a Democrat. Don't try to tell me it wasn't a wave. Robert Mueller isn't the only person investigating Trump now. We have the House Intel Committee is now chaired by Adam Schiff, and they have subpoena power. And he will use it. And he will get to the bottom of this, like he's been trying to do for the last 2 years, and Devin Nunes has been stymieing him. Devin Nunes is no longer the chairman. The midnight runs to the White House are over. I made a promise to the listeners of East Coast Radio that if the Democrats did not mess up November, that if November 6th went our way, that we would have a little fun here on East Coast Radio. And if you stay tuned, I promise you this. Along with our fighting fascism and trying to save democracy, we will have a little fun. Because we earned it. Keep it locked to East Coast Radio. Remember, we got Dies in Your House at the end of the week. We got the J Pork's podcast at the beginning of the week. Every week, East Coast Radio for the least heard voices. Get us on Patreon, patreon.com/JPorks, and follow us on Twitter at East Coast Radio. Let's punch fascism in the face. One podcast at a time.
If you don't know what Staten Island is, it's like New York's abortion that lived. Representing Staten Island. Staten Island was no joke.
Chuck on
Hey yo! What is the word, peeps? Welcome back into another action-packed edition of the J Porks Podcast. I am J Porks, with me as always on the other side of the glass, making sure there's a well-oiled podcast machine. Every week's the ever-popular Nobody, getting fairly better week by week with the fading out of the music. That is the Meat Puppets with their version of The House of Blue Lights, which is off the Rebel Highway soundtrack. That was a Showtime show, a remake that was short-lived in the 90s. It's not on any studio recordings. It's actually, I don't believe it's on anything for sale, so there shouldn't be any reason that YouTube should take that off. That's why I let it go long. But, I had to go. The title had to have blue in it for Blue Wave. Blue Wave confirmed. Remember last week when I was like, hey, we're going to be at 40 seats. Where are we now? We're at like 38 seats. Seats being called. Kornacki coming on TV every couple of days to let us know about a new California race that has flipped blue. Sweeping Orange County. So we're going to talk about a few things. Mueller probe in the thread count. We have Assange. We have Roger Stone. We have Wikileaks. We're talking that stuff in J Porks Presents the Thread Count. That's coming in a little bit. And if you're disciplined enough to hang through that, then you're going to get a little fun towards the end of the podcast. But I just want, and by fun I mean there will be some time, at least 19 minutes of non-politics. So just bear with me through this, and we will get there together. So right now, if nobody has seen Rachel Maddow talking about Matt Whitaker's masculine toilet, you really need to go on YouTube and look for it. It is phenomenal. No more context than that. Just Rachel Maddow, Matt Whitaker, masculine toilet. You will thank me later for it. You will thank me later. Okay. Episode 250 of the J Porks Podcast. 250. Is that like, it's not centennial. I don't know what it is. I don't know what you call it. Tweet at me. What is 250? Quarter centennial? Let me not even try to make up words here. Let me not make up words that don't exist. Okay, so we're also going to talk about Maria Butina. Is she working with prosecutors? She working on a plea? Is she? Is she not? I don't know. Let's check it out in a little while. So this week, Pelosi Gate continues. I don't want to spend too much time on Pelosi Gate. So I just want to point you all, go to patreon.com/JPorks. And you can listen, or you just go to iTunes, search for East Coast Radio. Go to YouTube, search for East Coast Radio. Go to Weebly.com. Go to JPork. No. I'm sorry. Go to leastcoastradio.weebly.com. Check out the latest episode of the J Porks Podcast. Check out the latest episode of Dies in Your House on Least Coast Radio, where I discuss hashtag Pelosi for Speaker. That's the title, and that's what we got to do. Hashtag Pelosi for Speaker. But I will say this. Hear me out. The right-wing hatred of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez makes me like her more. I'm just saying. At first she was a little annoying. She still is kind of annoying, but she annoys Republicans so much that it actually makes me happy. And you know what? I'm going to say this, and this is going to be very unpopular. I think AOC, which, by the way, I don't know how she doesn't have a campaign song. You down with AOC? Yeah, you know me. You down with AOC? Yeah, you know me. Like, I don't understand how that's not a thing. She's from Queens, for Christ's sake. I would totally be okay if Nancy Pelosi took the next 2 years training Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez to be the next Speaker of the House. We have a firebrand now. We never had a firebrand. You know? We got one now. No, but in all seriousness, she's not on the 5 white guys list of not supporting Pelosi. So, there's that. And all these other, you know, new centrist Democrats coming in who are anti-Pelosi. They're anti-Pelosi to please the Republicans in their district. So, any Democrat who says, oh, we need new leadership, but doesn't have a name or an idea of where that leadership should go, should really just shut your mouth and spend 2 years in power and work on that. And I'm doing my part because Max Rose, I got it in the intro, you know, that New York 11, Staten Island, elected a Democrat. Cool. He doesn't support Nancy Pelosi. I mean, he had a talk with her the other day, so he might support her now. But he wasn't supporting Nancy Pelosi. You want to be one term, bro? Because Staten Island is very ripe to be taken back by Republicans in 2 years. You know what I'm saying? And if Max Rose keeps, you know, being Republican, then Democrats are going to have less incentive to vote for him in 2020. And that's going to open us up to, you know, Representative Nicole Malliotakis from New York 11. And we don't need that. That's the last thing we need. Oh, you thought she went away? She didn't go away. She's going to run for public advocate for New York City. She's probably going to lose unless there's a lot of Democrats in the field. Then they'll all split the vote and she'll win. But I can definitely see her, you know, running against Max Rose if Dan Donovan doesn't, you know, come back. But if Max Rose is going to be somebody that doesn't vote for Nancy Pelosi, if Max Rose is going to be part of the reason why, and I don't know how this could be a thing, but again, I don't know all the rules. If not enough Democrats vote for Nancy Pelosi, then Kevin McCarthy is going to be the Speaker of the House. If that's true, if that's how that works, you cannot be one of the people that makes that happen. You can't. And if you are, you'll get voted out. Because we voted in young Democrats because we wanted new. We wanted new, meaning we wanted people who we vote for to listen to the things we say and do the things we would like, because that's why we voted for these people. We are their constituents. Max Rose cost Nancy Pelosi the Speaker of the House. Instead of just being smart, having a conversation with her, and getting all the stuff you got from her, if you just blindly vote no, or no vote, and cost having Nancy Pelosi be Speaker, one of the most effective legislative minds in recent generations. I'm sorry. Facts. Got Affordable Care Act passed. There isn't a brick in the wall. That's because of Nancy. We're only alive these last 2 years because of Nancy Pelosi. The only reason this is not fascist Germany already is because of Nancy Pelosi. And furthermore, a point I did not make on Dies in Your House, which you could listen to right now on YouTube, on iTunes, or go to patreon.com/jporks. Nancy Pelosi gained, the House gained seats. Close to 40. Blue wave confirmed. Oh, we got to replace Nancy Pelosi's speaker. Chuck Schumer, minority leader in the Senate, loses seats. Heidkamp, McCaskill go down. Bill Nelson goes down. They lose seats, and nobody is talking about maybe Chuck Schumer shouldn't be the Senate majority, maybe shouldn't be the Senate minority leader. Not discussing Chuck Schumer being ineffective. If you want to talk about, hey, we need new leadership across the board, cool. I'll be honest with you here. I'll say this right now in 2018. I would love if the Democrats had another, if the Democrats were ever able to take control of the Senate again, which it does not look like we're going to be able to do for another 6 years. But if we are able to ever do that, I'd be open to changing leadership on the Senate floor. What has Chuck Schumer done for you? What has Chuck Schumer done for progressives? I'm just saying it's not fair. It's sexism and it's shades of ageism, but it's really not, because they're not real. They don't have anybody young to put up. So Seth Moulton and Tim Ryan could go to hell for all I care. Clowns. Hashtag Pelosi for speaker. Go. I got a full 20 minutes on Dies in Your House on Friday. Go take a listen, please. I beg you. I'm going to talk about Maria Butina in a second. America's favorite Russian honeypot. But I really... And again, I don't do tweets. I don't sit here and read Trump tweets and try to decipher and understand what they mean. That's a fool's errand. But there was an interview with the Daily Caller that he had. They're a conservative newspaper. So I guess he felt safe. And, this guy is a loon. I don't have the transcript in front of me, so because I don't care that much about this loser. The Daily Caller asks, well, let's do serial fraud first, because that's funny. Voter ID. So he says you need voter ID for cereal. You go to a supermarket, you want to buy a box of cereal, you need voter ID. Now, I know we're all from different places in the country here. You might be listening to me in a different state. But here in New York, you don't need ID to buy cereal. Not only do you not need ID, you don't need specifically voter ID. Like, what does your voter ID have to do with cereal? Then he goes on this tangent about people are going to vote, and then they're going into their car, and they're putting on a hat, and they're changing their shirt, and they're coming in to vote again. The only person who would ever think that that is possible to happen is somebody who has never voted before. Because if you have voted before, then you've been to the polls, and you've signed your name, and you've seen how impossible... There's more people that work at the polls than go to the polls, as sad as that is. It is impossible. Now, personally, in my district, we go, and I have to sign my name, and I see my last, handful of signatures from last year, from the year before. I see them there. There's only one slot to sign. There's no such thing as people voting twice and 3 times. If that was the case, we would have made sure to do that and make sure Trump doesn't win. We would have did that in Pennsylvania, Michigan, in Wisconsin or Ohio, whichever one would have got us to, to whatever it was, whatever the electoral college number is. So the idea that you need voter ID to buy cereal, and the idea that there is mass voter fraud happening, is completely and utterly ridiculous, and it is signs of a deteriorating mind. Okay, so we tackled that part. Then, and I'm not sure if this was the order of the questions, but then they asked, the reporter for the Daily Caller asked, so, Attorney General Matt Whitaker, and then he went, yeah, Matt Whitaker's a great guy. I know him from, Jeff Sessions. And really, the Mueller investigation should have never been brought. It's an illegal investigation. They haven't found anything. There's no collusion. It's costing my... Back up a second, bro. Who said anything about the Russia investigation? They just asked you about Matt Whitaker. They didn't ask you about him overseeing the Russia probe. None of that. Why are you volunteering information that incriminates you? Why would you do that? This is like Lester Holt all over again. If you obstruct justice in plain sight, it doesn't make it not obstructing justice. Oh, I fired James Comey because, Russia. Dude, are you nuts? I hate this guy, and I'm like, dude, come on. Like, are you okay? Like, the criminal in me is like, well, this guy's fucking lost it, Jeez. So, like, look, I understand, like, there's many a good reason for Trump to be removed from office. But this deterioration of his mind might be might be the final ingredient of the 25th Amendment. And don't worry, everyone who says, oh, but then we'll get President Pence. No, we won't. No, we won't. Sources. My sources, who I usually use for the thread count, not use for the thread count. My sources who I usually read from in the thread count. People who have written on this. Louis Mensch. John Schindler. Greg Olear. Everybody smart who knows something about this, who's been ahead of the story the whole time, all say the same thing. President Pence will never be a thing. He's compromised. A, Flynn. B, Manafort picked him. And C, he's actually under investigation for some stuff he did as governor of Indiana. Currently. And most likely, I mean, he could be he could be in the sealed indictments. There's no precedent about subpoenaing a vice president. I did the answers myself. I'm a big boy. You hear him? He did them himself. You answered Robert Mueller's questions yourself? Without any help from lawyers? Good. That'll get you to jail faster. Some of the written questions created legal problems, Giuliani said. How? If you're sitting there with a list of questions, right? And you're not in front of the person asking the questions, can't you just answer the questions, in the confines of the law? We're going to get to the bottom of all this. I don't care. Listen, and Robert Mueller, when he got the title of special counsel, they said that he set up shop for what he thought was going to be 3 years. And again, this week, everybody wanted indictments. We got Julian Assange's name mentioned in court papers. We're gonna talk about that in the thread count. But his day of justice might be coming. Don Jr., Roger Stone. These are pending indictments. These are people that are going to be indicted any day now. So, progressives, liberals, people on the left, people who just aren't Republican. Just hang tight. Stay focused on what's going on voting. And if the elected official in your district recently claimed to not support Nancy Pelosi, then just go to their Facebook page and anything they post, or go to their Twitter, anything they post, just reply to them with the hashtag Pelosi for Speaker. Like Max Rose was just talking about the snow and how the salt trucks weren't out or something like that, and how there was traffic. So I went on that post, I scrolled down to the bottom, I hit comment, and I wrote hashtag Pelosi for Speaker. Because that's more important than people had to wait an extra 20 minutes for the bus. Nancy Pelosi is more important for the country than, you think Mayor de Blasio didn't get the salt trucks out on time, when meteorologists said it was going to be 1 to 2 inches and ended up being 6 inches. Extreme weather. How does that happen? Wildfires. How does that happen? Hurricanes. How does that happen? How are they so much stronger now than they were years ago? How? I don't know. Why don't you ask Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, any scientists, anybody with a brain, anybody that's studied, anybody that's been to school? Why don't you ask them? And they'll all tell you the same thing. Climate change is real. It's a real problem that we have to address. Not just to make the 50 states in the United States of America good. It's not only about us. The entire world. And we need to set the example. And the example we're setting right now is nationalism, racism, rising hate crimes, and a man baby tweeting from the Oval Office. And he needs to be stopped. And hopefully, we are in the closing stages of that. Because there are investigations happening. For instance, Maria Butina. I know we usually wait until the thread count to talk about things about Mueller and the Russia probe and Russians in general interfering with our electoral process, but actually have something from NBC News concerning everybody's favorite honeypot, Maria Butina. Alleged Russian operative Maria Butina negotiating with prosecutors. That's the headline. Huh? A document filed in federal court indicates prosecutors and Butina's lawyers are working towards a plea agreement. Lawyers, this is by Tom Winter, NBC News. Lawyers for alleged Russian operative Maria Butina have entered into negotiations with federal prosecutors, according to a document filed in federal court Friday. The two sides requested to postpone the next hearing in the case because they are currently, quote, in negotiations regarding a potential resolution to this matter, indicating that they are working towards a plea agreement. Butina is accused of acting as an agent of Russia in the D.C. area and faces charges of conspiracy and failing to register as a foreign agent, FARA. She was arrested and charged in January for allegedly conspiring with her ex-boss to infiltrate politically powered U.S. organizations, including the NRA, and push Moscow's agenda. Butina came to the U.S. in August 2016 on a student visa, Previously, she served as a special assistant to a Kremlin crony whose description in court papers matches that of Alexander Torshin, a former Russian senator and deputy head of Russia's central bank, who was close to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Torshin was sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department in April 2018, along with several other Russian oligarchs, and has been accused of links to organized crime, as NBC News has previously reported. In a statement issued by her lawyer, Robert Driscoll, after her arrest, Butina denied being a Russian agent. Driscoll called her an A student at American University, who has been, quote, cooperating with various government entities for months regarding public allegations related to her contact with various American and Russian individuals. He said she testified before closed doors before the Senate Committee on Intelligence and offered to speak to Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who was investigating Russian interference into the 2016 presidential election. Butina was charged in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C., unconnected to Mueller's investigation. The Russian government has strenuously denied that Butina has had any ties to any official government official. In the court filing, U.S. prosecutors requested that the court extend the current phase of the case, called a status conference, an additional 2 weeks to give both sides time to continue the negotiations. That's NBCnews.com has that. So, she's offered to talk to Robert Mueller. If you're keeping score at home, Manafort, Gates, Flynn, Papadopoulos, all of these people have pleaded guilty. Michael Cohen pleaded guilty. All of these people have pleaded guilty and are working with the U.S. government. Michael Cohen pleaded guilty at the Southern District of New York, I believe, for cases there. He has spoken to Mueller, but his plea isn't directly through Mueller. But the other 4 are. Maria Butina is not. Maria Butina is a Russian operative who was arrested by, regular authorities. It wasn't Robert Mueller. They weren't, hunting witches and they found Maria Butina. She was going around. Again, Russian gun rights group. There is no rights in Russia. You don't have rights. There are no rights to guns. They don't have that. So right there, red flag. Also, there's pictures of her with all of these U.S. senators, all of these GOP operatives. She's at the NRA dinner. She's with this guy. She's with that guy. It's with too many dudes for there not to be something going on. I'm not saying it's not okay for women to enjoy the company of other men and women from time to time. That's all good. But not if you're trying to influence the outcome of an election. And she was, because do you know how much conspiracy you have to do to actually be charged with conspiracy? Do you know how much you need to conspire? It's not jaywalking where the light was green and I ran across the street it's black and white. It's not that. Law enforcement needs to prove that you were part of a conspiracy. And to arrest you, they need to feel that they don't have any reason why you would not be, why they would not believe that that's what you're doing. Conspiracy? And not registering as a foreign agent? So the latest, because on East Coast Radio, the most popular, and I know it's crazy, but I scroll down to the bottom and it tells me the best of the podcast. And I don't know what that means exactly. I'm guessing it means the podcast that's been most listened to. Because you can't individually rate them. Not yet anyway. They should. Apple, why don't you add that? That's a good idea. How about rate each episode? But anyway. My top episode is Maria Butina. So, obviously, there are Russian trolls out there that really don't like that I'm shedding light on this Maria Butina honeypot scheme. Well, maybe not me, but they don't like that people are in general. And people have caught on. How many more Maria Butinas are there? That's what I want to know. Like, I'm not saying it's not a good show, but I really never wanted this to turn into, I never wanted my life to turn into an episode of The Americans. You know what I'm saying? This whole idea that any of this is okay. Loon. Bonkers. Okay. You want to hear more about Russia? Good. We are going to talk about more about We're going to get into Russia, Roger Stone, WikiLeaks, Mueller. Get into a lot of that on the other side of this break. So we're going to talk about that in the latest edition of J Parks Presents the Thread Count when we come back after this. Hey, yo. J Parks here, recording my own commercials as per usual. But I am here to tell you about going to patreon.com/JPorks, and you have the opportunity to help support Least Coast Radio by becoming a Least Coast Radio head. How do you do that, you say? Well, there are 3 different tiers to choose from, where you can find yourself bonus content, bonus features from the J Parks podcast, from Dies in Your House, from all things Least Coast Radio. Now, what are those features? Well, they're bonus shows. They're getting shows early. They're getting exclusive artwork mailed to the address of your choosing monthly. You can interact with all the hosts here on Least Coast Radio. You can get shout-outs on the podcast. Behind the scenes stuff. That's on Dies in Your House and the J Parks podcast. You get them both here on Least Coast Radio. Dies in Your House is usually the primer at the end of the week. The J Parks podcast is the long show. What we do at the beginning of the week to get you going, to take in everything that happened. But I need some help. And how you can help Least Coast Radio is by following us on Twitter at Least Coast Radio, going to patreon.com/JPorks, becoming a Patreon, becoming a Least Coast Radio head. And, you know, if you don't want to do any of those things, you can smash that subscribe button on iTunes or YouTube. And, you know, you can, it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt to share the podcast with your friends. So keep it locked to Least Coast Radio for the least heard voices. We're here fighting fascism, saving democracy, but we're also going to have a little fun. Keep it locked. And we're back. Well, technically I'm recording this section before I record the rest of the podcast, so I'm assuming that we're back. I'm assuming that I fit a commercial break in there, because that's normally what I do. Alright, we're going to get into everybody's favorite portion. We are about to get into J Parks Presents the Thread Count. But before we do that, let's just talk about, you know, the week. It's been a week where people in the know have been saying that it seems as if indictments will be coming down from the Mueller team this week. And it appears we did not get the indictments that we all desired. We are not streetcars. We did not get what we desired. But we did get a little tidbit from the Manafort side. Manafort and Mueller have delayed. There's a status update. They have to go to court and talk about the status of their plea agreement. And Mueller's team has asked, in conjunction with Manafort's team, to have an extension of 10 days. We are going to need 10 more days, and then we'll be able to show you a clearer picture of what we're doing. Also, Rick Gates, Manafort's deputy campaign chair of the Trump campaign. His sentencing also was delayed this week because of his ongoing cooperation with the Mueller probe. The wagons are circling around Roger Stone. And it is my belief, and I mean, this is just theory here. I think that Roger Stone, every time Roger Stone is about to get indicted, more crimes come out. Like, oh man, we got enough to indict Roger Stone. Oh man, he's threatening Randy Credico in text messages. Oh man, we got enough to indict Roger Stone. Oh man, he's intimidating witnesses. Oh, we got enough to indict Roger Stone. I just think that he keeps adding to his barrel of his barrel that he's going to be over any time now. Because Wikileaks is an arm of Russian propaganda. An arm of the Russian troll factory. That's what they are. Now, I've spoken about this before on the J Parks podcast. I've mentioned it before. I talked about it with Greg Oliar, who was on my podcast a couple of months ago, talking about his book Dirty Rubles, which you should get on Amazon. And he's actually, I'm going to read a thread from him in a second. He's the thread I'm going to lead off the thread count with. But, listen, we're both, not conservatives, but we also think that Julian Assange is a criminal. It's not a freedom of the press thing. Now, if you want to tell me, Edward Snowden, this and that, I'm not, the Edward Snowden hill is not one I'm going to die on. Julian Assange does not do things has not been doing, listen, when WikiLeaks was first started, when WikiLeaks first became popular, maybe it did look like there was transparency and this was all about, uncovering the corruption that governments are, doing and this and that. Okay. By stealing documents and publishing them online. But when you literally set out to just, partisanly ruin Hillary Clinton because you don't like her, because she wants a drone to kill you. Which, by the way, we don't know that that's actually true. But, when you start taking sides, you're no longer free press. You can't cry First Amendment. You just can't. So, in 2016, WikiLeaks actively decided that they were going to try and weaken President Hillary Clinton or, at the same time elect Trump. Not because that's best for WikiLeaks, but because that's best for Putin's agenda in Russia. A weakened Hillary Clinton would have been great for Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation. They would have loved that. That was their goal. They got more than that. They got Trump. So, what we have to establish is that Julian Assange is not the owner of a newspaper who publishes news. That is not what Julian Assange is. Julian Assange is a criminal, and Julian Assange should be brought to justice. And that's bringing us to what we're talking about in the thread count today, because even though we did not get the indictments that we wanted this week, apparently Julian Assange is being charged with a crime under seal. And that bit of information was revealed in a court document where they forgot to redact his name or something. In a paragraph where they were talking about why they would need to redact his name. Now, it might be just, circumstance. The word Assange may have accidentally appeared in that court filing. But the Washington Post last night, 40 minutes after I texted my girlfriend about it, the Washington Post ran with the story. So if the Washington Post will run with it, I'll run with it too. Woodward and Bernstein, baby. Let's go. But, so apparently Julian Assange is in the crosshairs, and the U.S. government, the Justice Department, is confident or they're hoping that they will be able to charge Julian Assange. So on that, I will reach for my phone. I will open up the Twitter universe, and we will get to this week's edition of J Porks Presents The Thread Count. Okay. Alright, let's go. Took me a while to find it in my likes. Alright, so you can follow Greg Olear on Twitter. He is the author of Dirty Rubles, An Introduction to Trump Russia. He is the founder of Four Sticks Press. Hashtag Who Owns Kavanaugh is in his bio. Facts. I can't wait to find out in January. Okay. So this thread, titled, Let's Talk About Julian Assange. And beginning with Greg here. Whatever legitimate journalism Assange's Wikileaks may have done previously, by 2016, Julian Assange was an asset of Russian intelligence. The coordinated release of stolen Podesta emails an hour after the Access Hollywood tape dropped was not journalism. It was an act of cyber warfare. In general, the discriminate dumping documents stolen by hackers is also not journalism. This is something the Bolsheviks did with the Romanov papers after the revolution. By the way, it was done to sow chaos. Assange was immediately connected with Edward Snowden's defection to Russia. He helped a traitorous spy escape, and he helped implement a propaganda campaign against a propaganda campaign to present that spy as a First Amendment hero. Assange sought asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy because he was wanted in Sweden for sexual assault. A guiltless man might demand his day in court so that he would be exonerated. Assange fled the country and hid out in an embassy basement. You know, like an innocent man would definitely do. Remember, some years ago, when we on the left falsely believed Assange was the cat's meow and Obama did not? Yeah, Obama had the intel we didn't have. He knew what Assange really was, an opportunistic fame whore and chaos agent with unseemly ties to the FSB, which is the former KGB. Kremlin. Recent visitors to Assange include Nigel Farage, Roger Stone, and Sean Hannity. And Sean Hannity has a fishy relationship with Julian Assange, and it links you up to an article from the Daily Beast in that tweet. That is from 2 years ago, where Sean Hannity was to interview Julian Assange. Which, by the way, if I was Sean Hannity, I would run to Mueller right now and spill my beans. Also, Assange reached out to Hannity, or tried to, with anti-Dem info. And that links you up to the Daily Beast article, sliding into DMs. Julian Assange offered Hannity impersonator news about top Democrat. Oh yeah, I remember that. Remember there was somebody impersonating Hannity on Twitter? That may not have been real, but the Daily Beast, according to them, they're saying that it was real. Okay. Hannity is one of 3 clients of Michael Cohen, who reportedly met for over 40 hours with the Mueller team, and was also supposedly in front of the grand jury this past week. WikiLeaks DM'd with Don Jr. during the campaign. Links you up to an article in The Atlantic. WikiLeaks is Organization 1 in the Mueller indictment against the 12 Russian hackers. So we know Assange is on his radar. Links you up to the New Yorker piece. And now we find out Assange is under sealed indictment. Assange, who coordinated with Don Jr., Roger Stone, and possibly Sean Hannity during the campaign. In short, no matter how many anarchists sing his praises, or how many ex-Baywatch babes he boinks, Assange is what Mike Pompeo said he was, head of a non-state, hostile intelligence service aligned with Putin's Russia. He belongs in U.S. prison. That's where he's going. End. Basically, yeah. This whole myth about how Julian Assange is the savior of the First Amendment. And WikiLeaks they're doing so good. And that's why Roger Stone, and that's why the wagons are circling around Roger Stone. Because Roger Stone either communicated with Julian Assange, or Roger Stone told a bunch of people that he communicated with Julian Assange. Either way, those are crimes, because Roger Stone is an American citizen, and you can't, you can't use stolen information to influence an election and think that that's not against the law. And listen, if Roger Stone said, oh, I think that these emails are going to get dumped, and then they got dumped at some innocuous time, that's fine. But they got dumped the Access Hollywood tape day? And there was a documentary on, I believe, Yahoo News. Yahoo News had a documentary about that day that the Access Hollywood tape came out, and about how so much happened in that day. We had Access Hollywood, then we had John Podesta's emails, basically canceled each other out. There was other things going on. That's the same day that the intelligence service said that, officially that Russia was trying to do something here. And also that's around the time that they said, oh, Hillary's got an investigation, or the Comey letter. All around that same 48-hour period, a whole bunch of stuff was going on. None of it to help America. Just gonna let you know that. So we as Americans need to decide what we want to be. We need to stop with this crap. We need to stop with this Julian Assange is a hero. He is not. He raped some chick in Sweden. I don't know what, is he on Putin's payroll? What did he get in exchange for, sowing division? Or does he just really hates Hillary Clinton that much? Either way, it's biased journalism, which is not journalism. You're Fox News or RT at that point. Has Fox News tweeted yet? Been like 6 days without tweeting. It's not a protest over Tucker Carlson. I don't care what they tell you. Something's going on, because the Inquirer hasn't tweeted either, and WikiLeaks only tweeted this leaked document in the past 5 days. Something's going on. And I think these next 10 days that Mueller has requested are going to end with us having a way clearer picture of what's going on. So, in case you keep the score at home, Roger Stone, indictment looming. Don Jr., who was in the Trump Tower meeting with Kushner and Manafort. Manafort's already pled guilty cooperating. We don't know if Kushner is cooperating or if they're just waiting to indict him. Don Jr. was the other one in there. Don Jr. communicated with WikiLeaks. Don Jr. has been telling friends that he will probably be indicted. I don't know many people that get indicted when they haven't done anything wrong. Then again, I'm no Ari Melber. I am not a lawyer. Continuing on. You know what? While we're on Stone, while we're on Randy Credico and witness intimidation and pending indictments, let's get into the Seth Abramson thread that talks about all this stuff with a little deep dive into Trump-Russia. Starts off with a side-by-side picture of Roger Stone and Jerome Corsi. And it says, the men below say Mueller is about to indict them. Both are suspected of A, collusive crimes, B, perjury. We have enough info to intelligently discuss their likely crimes. I do the necessary Trump-Russia deep dive here. It's wild stuff. And let's kick this thing off. Kremlin agent Joseph Misford told George Papadopoulos the Kremlin had stolen Clinton emails on April 25th, 2016. According to testimony from Trump aide John Mashburn, Papadopoulos emailed this intelligence to Mashburn and possibly others sometime almost immediately thereafter. Within 2 weeks, a massive campaign to get Clinton's stolen emails from the Russians had kicked off, and it involved many high-ranking officials in the Trump campaign, from National Security Team, Flynn, Papadopoulos, and Schmitz, from the campaign brass, Bannon, Conway, and Clovis. It is now known that the operation was considered so sensitive that second-level cutouts, trusted individuals a layer removed from the campaign, were enlisted, including Peter W. Smith, Roger Stone, and it is believed Jerome Corsi. Stone stayed in touch with Trump directly. Of course, Don Jr. also attended a meeting with Manafort and Kushner, believing he'd received these materials directly from Kremlin agents, and Trump directly requested the release of such materials during his infamous presser in July 2016. Trump's campaign was obsessed with, quote, her emails. The Trump campaign was so obsessed with using its pro-Russia, anti-US sanctions policy to solicit stolen emails from Russia that, besides the 14 conspirators already mentioned, even Shadow National Security Advisor Eric Prince was working the Clinton email angle 96 hours pre-election. Some of the same people involved in trying to get stolen materials from the Russians were involved in secret meetings with Russians in which foreign policy was negotiated. Others were involved in literally giving the Russians value, for instance, in changing the RNC platform. It appears Mashburn may have been involved in overseeing the pro-Russia RNC platform change. Certainly the National Security Advisory Committee, established and overseen by Sam Clovis, advised by Michael Flynn, Eric Prince, and Steve Bannon, employing Papadopoulos and Schmitz, was directly involved in it. Hold on. Well, let's pause right there. That is big. That's a lot of names. So, Mashburn, who has already, according to testimony, he has already given information. He's already testified. And it appears that he may have been involved in overseeing the platform change from the RNC to be more pro-Russia. And the National Security Advisory Committee that Sam Clovis started was advised by Michael Flynn, who was indicted, Eric Prince, who's indicted, Michael Flynn, who's pleaded guilty, Eric Prince, who wants to privately contract the military, and Steve Bannon, who is like banned from America right now. And George Papadopoulos was on that team also. It's a lot of criminals in one place. The simple logic. Trump had agreed to the sanctions agenda involving the unilateral dropping of sanctions on Russia in return for Russian bribes, so he knew Putin supported him. He believed the Kremlin had intel on Clinton, or could manufacture it. That would win him the election. As Trump's, quote, Find Your Emails campaign, which sought out Russian hackers on the dark web and otherwise, as well as indirectly, secretly raged on in June-July, a concurrent Felix Sater-Michael Cohen campaign to seal a Trump Tower Moscow deal, the Trump-Rosnov deal, was ongoing. So at the same time, we got Russia stuff where we're trying to get the emails. We got that. We also have Michael Cohen and Felix Sater have to cover up this Trump Moscow because, I have no business dealings in Russia. Concurrent Russian cover-ups happening at the same time. In early June 2016, Sater told Cohen of the Trump-Rosnov deal, which had stalled in January 2016, could be negotiated and completed in July 2016 if Cohen would travel to Moscow for an event Sater had gotten him an invite to. Putin's right-hand man, Peskov, and Putin would be there. With a face-to-face meeting between Trump attorney Cohen and Putin himself in the offing, as that's what Sater was offering Trump, It's clear A, Cohen told Trump the offer, and B, Cohen had every possible incentive to travel to Moscow to meet directly with Vladimir Putin. But Cohen didn't go to Moscow, which until recently was inexplicable, given that he'd been angling to get close to Putin and Peskov in order to get close to in order to close the secret Trump-Rosnov business deal. For many, many months. But we now have a likely explanation, up to almost a certain one. The explanation comes in the form of Cohen's excuse for not going to Moscow. He told Sater he would be far too busy in the 10 days pre-Republican National Convention. And what actually happened in those 10 days, which is that Cohen, quote, went on vacation in Italy, or so he told everyone he could. Cohen told people he was on the island of Capri with a friend, a member of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. The problem is that friend's wife says they were never in Capri with Cohen, despite being in Italy at the time. In fact, they never saw Cohen there. Michael Cohen is hanging out with guys from the E Street Band in Italy? Or pretending to? If you go in Italy, why would you say you're with someone famous? If you weren't actually there. Continuing on. Moreover, Cohen, in traveling to Italy, entered an European Union travel zone that allowed him to get other... Moreover, Cohen, in traveling to Italy, entered an EU travel zone that allowed him to get to other European capitals, including Prague, without an additional stamp in his passport. Remember that he waved his passport about to Hannity, saying it would prove he'd never been to Prague. Remember, too, that Cohen allegedly having never gone to Prague was the only alleged error Trump's allies ever identified in the Steele dossier. And remember, who else was in Italy? Joseph Misfit, who worked at a university there and had met secretly with Papadopoulos there. Misfit, of course, was the Trump campaign's contact on the question of the Kremlin having stolen Clinton emails. Even if Cohen never left Italy, July 9th to 17th, he did lie about where he was and had ready access to the Kremlin intermediary on the subject of the emails. We've every reason to think other members of Trump's national security team believed that they had to go to Europe to get access to the Russian agents. Carter Page met with an agent in Hungary. Prince went to Hungary and refused to tell Congress about it. Schmitz went to Hungary without explanation. And now we find out that the very man who appears to have had advanced knowledge of WikiLeaks' release of Clinton's stolen documents, Jerome Corsi, not only shared that knowledge with Trump pal Roger Stone, who has been in touch with Trump, but also may have been in Italy while Michael Cohen was. Corsi said today that Mueller asked him many questions about an anniversary trip that he took in Italy in 2016, which may well have coincided with Cohen's vacation there, and Joseph Misfit's continued employment at a university there. Italy is clearly a key collusion spot. Well, fascism's rising in Italy right now, after all. So, and P.S. My book, Proof of Collusion, will be released tomorrow at this level of detail of Trump's collusion in the campaign. Much greater detail, 450 pages. Note, Proof of Collusion details in painstaking fashion every lie Stone has told about whether he had a back channel to WikiLeaks, and if so, who it was, whether and how he stayed in touch with the Trump campaign after he was, quote, fired from the campaign, and other contacts he lied about. Note 2, the Russians were behind the Republican National Convention platform change in July 2016. Not just indirectly, but directly, is confirmed, and that the Russians coordinated that change with the highest levels of the Trump campaign is also confirmed. It is in the book. So everyone go buy Seth Abramson's book, Proof of Collusion. It comes out. It's out. And as we were saying this, as I was reading this tweet, I thought I got followed by a bot, but it's actually not a bot. It's a real person. So I'm going to follow them back. 'cause I ain't gonna follow back, y'all. Alright, so like I was just saying, this Roger Stone, Jerome Corsi, Randy Credico nonsense, this stuff is real as a heart attack. And I know it seems like silly that, you know, these emails and WikiLeaks and all of this is actually way more than just like Oppo research. It's way more than, you know, trying to beat your opponent. It's conspiring with a foreign agency. And it's at so many levels. So, like, I don't personally know if Trump got on the phone and called Putin to directly make it happen. That's not the crime. You have these cutouts. First, we have to figure... That's why the Mueller investigation is so important. Because we need to figure out the extent of what Russia did so we can figure out how many Americans we need to charge with conspiracy against the United States to defraud an election. Here I thought it was just Republicans running for Senate seats in the South and gubernatorial races that are able to stifle elections. I didn't know foreign governments are getting in on it too. Jeez. It's a lot of people in Italy at one time. Misfit, Cohen, Jerome Corsi. They all had to go to European countries because they had to be within the border so they don't have to restamp the passport. If somebody like... I mean, listen, I'm not saying that Michael Cohen is like the dumbest person in the world. He's fairly, you know, unintelligent, you know, for getting caught up in this much fraudulent activity. But nonetheless, he's coming clean. He's talking to Mueller, so I don't want to hate the guy. But like, if Michael Cohen can figure out a way to get to Prague and not have it show up on his passport, trust me when I tell you that Robert Mueller can figure out how you did that. It's complete lunacy to think that Robert Mueller's been doing an investigation for 2 years and, you know, nothing's going on. Fairly certain he would have passed. All the investigations that don't reach federal crime level get handed off to the Southern District, the Eastern District. Insane. I just can't. So that's why when people like me see that Julian Assange might be charged with a crime under sealed indictment, you understand why that makes me a little gleeful. Because Julian Assange is a criminal. Why'd he go to Ecuador? Because he's a pedophile. Because he raped some chick. Some young chick. Not that rape was okay. Not that I needed to add young to it, but, I mean, it is what it is. Free press my ass. The guy influenced an American election. We're not supposed... That's the thing. Oh, well, this happens in this country, and this happens in that country. That's what everybody says. Everybody points to, like... And this might sound elitist of me, and I'm sorry to say that. Oh, another country interfered in our election? That must suck. Must suck when we do that to other countries. Yeah, but we're America. We are supposed to be setting the stage for democracy. Setting the stage for this whole world to come together and, like, you know, not burn up from climate change. And, you know, work together so the whole world can... you know, live greener pastures and all that stuff. But no. You got people over here with a nationalist agenda. They're such nationalists. They're so America first that the biggest donors to their campaign was another country, Russia. They're so hooked on helping out Americans that the biggest change to the RNC platform had nothing to do with Americans. It actually had to do with Russians and making Russians be able to have sanctions lifted. The campaign was so America first. The NRA is so America first. And the NRA was so America first with Trump that they took $30 million from Russia and funneled it into the Trump campaign. It's only about 30% of the amount of money that Russia funneled into the Trump campaign. And also, real quick, a big conservative talking point is the price of the Mueller investigation. And I've said it time and time again, and I will say it again. Robert Mueller's investigation doesn't cost any money because Robert Mueller's investigation was able to do civil asset forfeiture on Paul Manafort. Therefore, actually, here we go. So I got the numbers right here. The cost of the Mueller probe is $17 million. Compare that to the cost of Trump going to play golf so far, $80 million. Okay. This is from CNBC. I'm just going to read this quote real quick. Part of the plea deal that Mueller's team reached with Manafort required his crime syndicate to forfeit assets, the value of which was estimated between $42 and $46 million. So, 42, hold on, I'm gonna do math. 42 minus 17. So Robert Mueller made the U.S. government $25 million by taking Paul Manafort's stuff. The government made profit. You should be happy. You should be happy that the government made profit. If anyone gets a paycheck and like right under like Social Security and stuff like that, if you see a line that it says like Robert Mueller and there's money taken out of your check, then by all means have a reason to get mad. But I mean, if you're talking to me about how much the Mueller probe costs and you're ignoring the fact that it's uncovering crimes committed by criminals, if you're okay with criminals criminaling, then we really need to talk about this whole party of conservative family values, and we really need to talk about what the term conservative actually means and what the definition is. Because the people that are behaving like they say they're conservatives, Republicans, Bible thumpers, behaving like heathens, speaking and acting like heathens. All right. And that concludes this week's edition of J Porks Presents the Thread Count. Again, Greg Oliar, follow him on Twitter. He was first with the Assange thread. And follow Seth Abramson on Twitter. They both have books. Greg Oliar has the book Dirty Rubles, An Introduction to Trump Russia. You can get that on Amazon. Seth Abramson has a book that came out this week, Proof of Collusion. I'm fairly sure that's on Amazon too. I don't personally know Seth Abramson, but Greg Oliar is a close personal friend of mine. We broke bread. We didn't break bread, but we had coffee. Digital bread. Anyhow. All right. We'll take a break, talk a little bit about Patreon. Then we're going to have a little fun. When we come back after this. J Porks here. And I know I've been a little busy on this East Coast radio stuff. Talking about resist, remove, and recreational. But I gotta tell you about one more thing. You should be a East Coast Radiohead. That's right. And you can become a East Coast Radiohead just by going to patreon.com/JPorks and check out the offers we have there. There's a low tier, a middle tier, and a high tier. All of those get you bonus content, exclusive personalized artwork, and even a chance to interact with me on a personal level over the phone. We could talk about what's going on in this podcast. We could talk about how we are going to flip these seats blue in November. And we are going to vote like this is our final election, because it might be. Patreon.com/JPorks. Become a Least Coast Radiohead and join the resistance. And we're back. JPorks Podcast. As promised, since the blue wave happened, we will every week, after we get through the real business, we're going to have a little fun. And by fun, I mean, I'll spend a couple of minutes talking about something that's not political. So, it's not... That was completely and utterly disappointing. And I flipped out for about 20 minutes about it at the end of my podcast. But it's not always, like, the air quotes fun part of the podcast is not always going to be at the end of the podcast. Because here's the thing, if I tell you guys where the air quotes fun part of the podcast is, you guys are going to skip the rest of it and just listen to, you know, the fun part. And that's not what this is about. This is a reward that you get because you listened, because I love you for listening. So without further ado, let's talk about a little film that came out last week. Well, 2 weeks ago by now? Either way. A little film by the name of Bohemian Rhapsody. Now the problem is that, first of all, spoiler. Fantastic film. And yes, I downloaded Queen music to put in the background. I'm that serious about this. That movie was really that good. But I am going to lower it so it doesn't distract me and so I don't start singing. But, okay. Bohemian Rhapsody is the Queen biopic. I've got 2 points to make on it. The second one I will make, spoiler, second. It got... I don't want to say got panned, but me and my girlfriend saw it the first showing that it was available. Thursday night, because they don't do midnight showings anymore because, you know, guns. But, so we saw it Thursday night, the first night it was available to come out. And I gotta tell you, I was really excited to go see it. It was like, oh my god, I'm gonna see Queen. Like, Queen movie is way, you know, way more Queen than Queen and Adam Lambert, you know what I'm saying? And anybody that goes to the Queen movie wearing a Queen and Adam Lambert tour t-shirt should really, you know what, I can't even, enjoy your life. There's not, I can't hate everybody, okay? But, I mean, come on. Alright, so, after we got back from the movie, I immediately went to Twitter because that's how I find out things. I went to Twitter so I can see what people are thinking about the movie. The trailer was amazing. So I was like, oh, this thing's going to be huge. I get home and people are panning the movie on Twitter. Not the movie, but they have certain opinions about it that I'm going to share with you. I'm paraphrasing, basically. It's a Queen biopic. Or if you're British or stupid, as you would call a biopic. But it's a Queen biopic. It's about Queen as a band. It's not a Freddie Mercury movie. It's not a Freddie Mercury biopic. It's not the life story of Freddie Mercury. And that was a lot of people complained about, oh, it doesn't delve enough into Freddie's roots, and, you know, why did he do this, and it doesn't get into this, and it doesn't get into this, and it's like, dude, as the director of Doctor Strange said, can't go into a film and judge it based on what I think it's gonna be. I have to go into a film and judge it based on what it is. And that's what people have made the mistake of doing. They thought they were going to see something, and they saw something different, and they not necessarily didn't like the movie. They thought it was a well-made movie. They just didn't like how the story was told. Now, I'm liberal. You know, I'm all about LGBTQ, all that stuff. And I know that preference sounds like something Alex Jones would say before he says something wildly homophobic. I do understand that. But that's not where this is going. The only gay person I dislike is my uncle, and that's not because he's gay, that's because he's a Republican. There's a difference. It's okay to be gay. If you want to be a Republican, I don't want you in my life anymore. But anyhow, so a lot of people, basically this movie, it wasn't gay enough. That's basically the criticism. It wasn't Freddie Mercury's big gay circus parade, you know? And that movie could be made when you make a Freddie Mercury biopic. This was a Queen biopic telling the story of Queen, and the main sell of this movie is the cinematography, is the performance, is the way not only Rami Malek, but the other guys playing the members of the band, the way they look exactly like the band members. And the way they show us, they bring us a little bit into, you know, what went into some of the things, some of the ways, you know, our favorite tunes were made. You know, studio, stuff like that, personal, like for instance, like Freddie Mercury loves cats. I didn't know he loved cats as much as he does. So that's cool. You know, I really like, he had a mansion where all his cats had their own room. That's a bit extreme, even for me. And I love cats. But, you know, oh, they got some childhood facts wrong. Dude, did you enjoy the movie? Was it a well-made movie? Were the performances good? It was, the voice was a combination of Rami Malek, and there's this guy on YouTube that does Freddie Mercury. They used him for the movie, too. Mike Myers was in the movie? Mike Myers was in the movie playing a record executive who tells Queen that Bohemian Rhapsody will never be a song that that kids will bob their head to in the car. That kids will headbang to in the car. It'll never be that. Never. Mike Myers' character. It's just funny. Lots of good stuff. Lots of feel-good moments in this movie. I understand that, you know, the end of Freddie Mercury's life wasn't really, you know, not something we want to write home, you know. I mean, you wish he would have went out on top, you know. But listen. And also with the movie, people are saying, oh, it didn't focus on Freddie's personal life enough. It didn't focus on, you know, all the partying, all the epic partying, all this and that. And it's like, dude, first of all, do we need to know, like, the specifics and the amounts of how much drugs Freddie Mercury did? Do we need to know? And also, the band are the producers of this movie. So the band has the final say on everything. So the band is the closest to Freddie Mercury. Freddie did not want his business out there. He did not want to be, according to, again, there were 4 people there, one of them is dead, so we're gonna go with what the other 3 are saying. Now, the story they tell is that Freddie didn't want to be a poster child for, you know, what not to do as a rock star. You know what I'm saying? He didn't want to be that. So he kept it to himself. Now, I know that people knew, and word got out. But you're talking about the press release announcing he had AIDS wasn't released until the day before he died. I mean, that tells you right there. So, the movie wasn't about Freddie Mercury's... The movie didn't spend an hour and 20 minutes talking about Freddie Mercury's battle with AIDS. Because that's not what Freddie Mercury would have wanted. This wasn't Boy Erased. You know what I'm saying? This wasn't trying to whitewash, you know, Freddie Mercury being a homosexual. I saw somebody saying that this was an anti-Freddie Mercury movie. What? Again, you go into the movies, you watch a movie. It's a movie. You suspend disbelief. I saw articles that said the Queen biopic basically just puts the Queen Wikipedia page on the screen. Good. I don't want to read. I didn't come to the movies to read, so I would hope that you took words and made them into a picture. Man, people are so fussy about everything, and I hate everything. Loved it. Phenomenal. Second point. I have a second point here. Now, rest in peace, Stan Lee. Stan Lee is Stan the man. I mean, I know he was old, but we still could have used him around a couple more years. He just likes making cameos, and we're not going to get any more cameos. But, since I was going to mention Marvel really fast, I wanted to say R.I.P. Stan Lee. So you know how Marvel has the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Where they have different movies, but they all, like, tie together. And they have all the actors, like, playing the same parts. Like, Captain America in Iron Man is Captain America in Captain America. Is Captain America in the Avengers. Is Captain America in if he shows up in Spider-Man or whatever. So, we're at the Queen movie. Previews are on. And they got the previews for Rocket Man, the Elton John movie. Is it called Rocket Man? There's an Elton John movie coming out, which looked pretty good. And then we watched the Bohemian Rhapsody. And they mentioned that their manager, in the movie they mentioned that one of their first managers is the guy that manages Elton John. So I'm thinking. And the one thing Bohemian Rhapsody didn't have was, they didn't have a character playing David Bowie to record Under Pressure. So, that's the one flaw in my little idea I have here. But stay with me. So they can come out with an Elton John movie. If Queen was, if in passing, Queen is to make an appearance in the Elton John movie, it should be the same actors that played Queen. How about we have a cinematic universe for all of the rock and roll biopics? So, like, the guy that would have played David Bowie in the Queen movie, like, you could have introduced a character to play David Bowie, and then because they're gonna make a David Bowie movie. You know David Bowie's gonna have his own, like, 4-hour biopic. So if they do that, and they feature a portion where they're recording Under Pressure, I would think that they should have the same actors playing it. It should be a cinematic universe, so that when they have if they want to make a Freddie Mercury biopic, Freddie Mercury solo biopic that's not the band but just Freddie Mercury, then they could have Rami Malek come back and be like a sequel. So you see how you can have so many. How many biopics do they want to make about bands right now? Basically, every band can have a movie. Why don't we do that? I would love that. That would get me to the movies more. Marvel and music. So I was just thinking, like, maybe that would be cool. If, like, say you got an Elton John movie, let's just say you have, like, a Led Zeppelin movie, you know? Well, I don't know if Queen passes with Led Zeppelin. But if you have, like, a Rush film, you know? They can be like, oh, they could be in the studio for the first time. They could be like, hey, what do you want our sound to be? They could be like, we can try to be Queen. That's what it could be. Prog rock. No, but I mean, in all seriousness. Good movie. So, people need to stop crying about everything. Just because our government sucks right now, doesn't mean that every movie sucks. So everyone just chill. enjoy the film. I not only enjoyed it, but I cannot wait until it's available to illegally stream online so I can watch it again. It's good stuff. Hear all the songs. I'm 30. What am I, 31? I had to think about it. My birthday's in a month, by the way. I'm 32. 3 years away from being able to run for president, by the way. Just saying. I'm building the base now. But, in all seriousness, our government sucks right now. It doesn't mean you need to hate everything. Go to a movie, enjoy a movie. This is coming from me. The guy that doesn't enjoy anything. The guy that goes outside and somebody says, hey, it's a nice day out. I'm like, fuck Trump. You know? I mean, like, people are too uptight about things, man. People are a little too uptight about everything. And again, that's coming from me, liberal, who is pro-everything. Pro-everything besides guns. Okay. And if Rami Malek doesn't win the Oscar or Academy Award, whatever award is the highest one, he needs to win it. Again, it was not boy erased in real life. You know what I'm saying? This was not an anti-homosexual film. By any means. Me and my girlfriend are both very feminist, you know? Very pro-LGBTQ. Very pro-tolerance. And again, very liberal. Very political. I'm very politically correct. And I will say this with certainty. Trust me, I definitely knew that Freddie Mercury was gay in the movie. Definitely. And I definitely thought he was the focal point of the movie. Even though the band was supposed to be the focal point of the movie. But really, they redo the whole Live Aid. It's really... cinematography is fantastic. It's really good. So I don't care if you didn't really like the script too much. It was good stuff. And I think you should go enjoy it. Take an hour. Enjoy it. We won back the house. Okay. See, I didn't scream. I actually had fun. See? Entertaining, non-political end to the podcast. Sometimes it'll be in the beginning. Sometimes it'll be in the middle. I can't have you guys knowing where it is and then just listening to that. That would not be fair. We're here to fight fascism first. 3 F's. Fight fascism first. Then we can have a little fun. Alright. Tap it out. I'm done. I shouldn't have tapped the mic. The levels just went really high there. Okay. Tapping out here, but before I do, let me give you a list of websites you need to go to help keep me in business. First of all, there is patreon.com/JPorks. Keep up on all the latest JPorks podcasts. Keep up on all the latest episodes of Dies in Your House. Again, the most recent episode of Dies in Your House, hashtag Pelosi for Speaker. We break down why 5 white guys can't ruin the progress we've made over the last 2 years of being not in power. Can't have it. Okay. Also need to go to ConcertConfessions.com. That's where you get all your live music, news and reviews for the fans by the fans. The website is back up. It was down for a week because of Election Day. I wanted everyone to focus on going out and voting. And that's why it was down. It wasn't down because I didn't have the $14 to pay GoDaddy for the month. That's not the reason. If you think that's the reason, you're just silly. So, ConcertConfessions.com. Live music, news and reviews for the fans, by the fans. What else we got? Check out the new website, leastcoastradio.weebly.com. Go to iTunes, search for East Coast Radio, smash that subscribe button. Every Friday we have a brand new episode of Dies in Your House. Every Sunday evening we have a brand new edition of the J Porks Podcast. Fighting fascism, one podcast at a time. Till next week, folks. Wacky Weed and Warren Zevon. Resist, remove, and for the love of God. Can we fight for recreational? Late.